Hey everybody, it's me, Daniel Hutchins, and today we're using an article site that we are friends with, thedirect.com. So, you guys probably who remember, I did some recent discussions from this website, thedirect.com, and they actually have some very direct and really great information regarding to anything in the comic book universe. So, today we are going to be visiting the topic of Hawkeye. Yep, Hawkeye. So, Hawkeye producer has promised Christmas Spirit and Jeremy Renner's Disney Plus series. Now, if you guys remember, Hawkeye is going to be a Disney Plus series this year. It's supposed to come out pretty soon, because with the finale with Loki and everything, now our next big hot show is coming out is Hawkeye. So now we're going to go on with this information about Hawkeye, but we're going to read this information, so stick around. So with 3 episodes of the What If already been aired, there are some fans that are excitedly waiting for Hawkeye, the next big Disney Plus series from our friends in Marvel Studios. Now, returning to live action, this show will feature Jeremy Renner, Clint Barton, and Hawkeye training the new Kate Bishop, played by Haley Steinfeld, to take up his mantle as the new Hawkeye. But there have already been plenty of tantalizing details revealed about this series, not the least of which has promised the showdown between Clint and Yelena, which is, Black Widow's baby sister. But that was set up in the post-credit scene from that film. Okay, so additional to this, some new info about the show seems to indicate the holiday themes from at least some of the episodes. Okay, so a very Clint Barton Christmas and Hawkeye. So there are going to be some Christmas and winter type themes. Okay, so according to some new info from the TV Guide magazine, which is a very good which is really good article regarding this new series via Reddit, which is another good site that some people use a lot. Hawkeye will take place around Christmas time. It'll feature the holiday theme. The magazine goes as far as calling this series the holiday tale set in snowy New York City. Okay. Just the sound of that seems cheerful as it says. But Haley Steinfeld's Kate Bishop will be the mega fan of bow-slinging Avenger who's been training to fight like him. But he'll eventually take her under his wing. Like a sidekick. But the article alludes to the comics run by Matt Fraction and David Aja as influencing the series. The points to the show being equal parts of actions and deep convos between Jeremy Renner, Clint, and Kate Bishop. But of course, series executive producer has specifically noted that this unique relationship between Clint and Kate from the MCU. Kate is looking for new ways to implement those training skills. That's when she runs into Clint, who had no clue who she is and doesn't really understand her obsession for him. Now, okay, so we also promised that the show will be grounded and funny and packed to the brim with Christmas spirit. Okay, Christmas spirit, right? Christmas spirit, yes. Much with the Matt Fraction comic run from that took place during Christmas. Now, Hawkeye is to draw some famous comic runs. While many have speculated that Hawkeye would draw on the Matt Fraction David Aja run of the comics, given to the focus of Kate Bishop, this new info seems to solidify it, with this article specifically mentioning from the comics and reinforcing the Christmas time setting. Hawkeye is definitely being set up for the MCU take on the beloved comic book storyline. Alright. Marvel will obviously have their own spin to the story, which is likely where Yelena Belova and a rumored Wilson Fisk appearance will come in play. It'll also be interesting to see how Marvel will weave the backdrop of Christmas into this story, given this show takes place after the events of Endgame. This means this world will be celebrating its first holiday season since the return of those erased by Thanos. It will surely be an emotional time from people in MCU. Hopefully, though, Hawkeye will play into that. Perhaps Clint's reason for training his successor is his desire to spend time with his family, like his family on the farm. He thought he'd lose forever, but it would be an interesting angle that is very fitting with what the fans have seen from the screen over the years. Now, for those who are eager to see MCU's Master Archer back into action, we finally found out when it's debuting. The actual date for Hawkeye will debut on Wednesday, November the 24th, only on Disney+. So right on the same week as Thanksgiving. So November 24th would be technically the same week as Thanksgiving. Or actually, it's the day before Thanksgiving, because Thanksgiving is on the 25th. So Wednesday the 24th would be the day before Thanksgiving, which is actually really, really something you could be thankful for. Because, Hawkeye has been through a long run throughout his journey from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Okay, so that is just a little bit of some information I want to share. Now I want to share some other information. Alright, now we are going to talk about Spider-Man stuff again. Now this was from a few days ago, stuff that I have not touched, of course. But Emma Stone has reacted to the Spider-Man 3 No Way Home rumors. And this was from a few days ago. Okay, so Sony and Marvel Studios' upcoming third solo Spidey film, Spider-Man No Way Home, seems to be thrown in everything but the kitchen sink. With heavy rumors of previous cinematic Spider-Man, Toby Mcguire and Andrew Garfield, getting a piece of the action and appearing as multiversial versions of Spider-Man, fans are understandably frothing at the mouth for more information or perhaps the trailer. But since we know the trailer is out now, you don't have to worry anymore. But also confirmed to be joining is Doc Ock from 2004 Spider-Man 2. Many other Spider villains from the past movies were rumored as well, and even some of the supporting cast members. These roles, reprisals, were speculated to have something to do with the events of WandaVision and the Multiverse of Madness. Mainly, Wanda Maximoff's procurement of the dangerous mystical tome, the Darkhold, was this idea that the Strange sequel will explore alternate realities and planes from the existence, henceforth, the multiverse of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. However, one appearance of a cast member from a previous Spider-Man film is apparently off the table. Now this is going to be a little bit of a bummer, but okay. No hopes for Gwen Stacy. Now you might be shocked by this, but I'm shocked too, so we're going to be talking about why Gwen Stacy will probably not appear in this movie. But speaking to MTV News, actress Emma Stone, who starred as Gwen Stacy in the Mark Webb Amazing Spider-Man movies, debunked the swirling rumors that she plays a role in Spider-Man No Way Home. Alright, but she's heard these rumors, but she doesn't know if I'm supposed to say anything, but I'm not in the movie. The report from late 2020 has claimed that Stone's appearance in the MCU sequel was expected yet indefinite due to her pregnancy. Because when you're pregnant, I guess you have to take care of your family. You can't, be in a Spider-Man movie, I guess. But in the same interview, Emma Stone reflected on starring alongside Andrew Garfield from the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I had wonderful experiences making them, even though they were challenging, but I loved working with Mark, and I loved working with that whole team. Really something special experience for me. Feel similarly protective. I feel protective of that version of Spider-Man. There have been some wonderful Spider-Man throughout the history. Spider-Gwen no more. Okay, so there's these fans that were assuming that Emma Stone would be involved in No Way Home. There was the chance that the first live-action appearance of Spider-Gwen, aka Ghost Spider, was on the way, but film fans will seemingly have to remain satisfied with the animated version from Into the Spider-Verse and its upcoming sequels. Okay, so that's still alright, but it's worth considering, though, that Emma Stone just recently gave birth to her first child recently. And she was pregnant, really pregnant, for the entirety of No Way Home's production, which probably ruled out the return for her role if she was indeed to be asked to join. But it's also worth noting that Stone simply might not be able to be truthful about her role in the film, due to the NDA with Marvel and Sony. After all, Andrew Garfield recently denied that he was appearing as well. His reprisal of Peter Parker's Spider-Man bears a lot more clout than Stone's. Regardless of which multiverse characters show up from No Way Home, the movie will hit theaters on December the 17th of 2021. Like I've said again and again. And from things you've seen again and again. Okay. Alright. Now, we are going to be talking about another hot Spider-Man news that we missed, that I want to clear you guys up on. Spider-Man 3 actor seemingly spoils Toby Mcguire's return in Tom Holland's No Way Home. Okay, so for many, Spider-Man No Way Home is the most anticipated film of this year. Something which isn't surprising, seeing this as the follow-up of a massive cliffhanger from Far From Home. Let the audiences on, though, that Peter Parker has never had the deal of his sacred identity going public in live action. No less in a massive and largely interconnected universe. Marvel didn't see it to simply have it follow through with a plot point. They wanted to up the ante even more, which again seems near impossible when its very identity of the people he loves was at stake. But once rumors started coming out that the villains from previous films are set to take advantage of the multiverse, making their faces known to Tom Holland, excitement shot through the roof. And with the villains come their heroes, with whispers indicating that Tom Holland would share the screen of both Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. What was once gossip was now confirmed, thanks to none other than J.B. Smoove, Parker's teacher, Mr. Dell. Now, Tobey Maguire is confirmed. I repeat, he is confirmed. So, an interview with the Illuminati, actor and comedian J.B. Smoove, who will return in Spider-Man No Way Home, was asked, which Spider-Man are you excited to see Tom Holland share a screen with? Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield? Smoove was quick to respond, saying Tobey Maguire. Of course, man. Now the simple response all but confirms Tobey Maguire's return to the live action as Peter Parker. Tobey is back in the saddle. There is always the chance the actor misunderstood this question, but instead of thinking it was hypothetical, though with the pressure of all these actors under Marvel keeping a tight mouth, it's hard to believe that he didn't know exactly what he was saying. Recently, Sony and Marvel Studios were both likely been in a state of consistent panic, thanks to various leaks continuing to come out from the woodworks. But the highly anticipated trailer got leaked early, on TikTok no less, as did some other images from the film, not found from the early trailer, for a film that has held back so much from the world. But it is odd to see it all slowly come crashing down. Even with all this information out, hopefully fans will still be able to enjoy the movie. It's many surprises when it hits December 17th later this year. But it's probably near impossible for any Spider-Man to not enjoy a film that is rumored to bring together so many elements of the character's live-action history. Now, just the fact of seeing Toby Mcguire on screen as Peter Parker once again would feel like nothing short of a dream. The entire script could leak online, and the studios would still have a record-breaking box office success. Okay, so there you go, guys. There is some information, y'all, that now apparently someone has spoiled the fact that Toby Mcguire is returning for No Way Home. So that was some interesting information I wanted to share to y'all. So this has been confirmed. Toby Mcguire is returning to Spider-Man. So that was actually some really, really awesome stuff. Because like I said, we haven't seen Toby Mcguire set suit in Spider-Man since 2007 with his iteration of Spider-Man 3. But now since Tom Holland's having a Spider-Man 3, now it's really been good that the fact that now you have Toby Mcguire, who he had a Spider-Man 3, now he's going to be in Tom Holland's Spider-Man 3. Which is really, really cool. Okay. Now, we are going to be talking about the Avengers. Yep, the Avengers Endgame producer teases the blip's impact from New York City. This was from today. Marvel Studios is on a roll, with releases on Disney Plus and theaters simultaneously, which are set to continue through the rest of this year. The Disney Plus side of Phase 4 is looking to end off the year with Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye, which will be the first time the MCU long-time archery expert has headlined his own outing. But will Hawkeye surely focus on its leading hero in his next journey? The show is also set to feature Haley Steinfeld's MCU journey, as she takes on the role of young Avenger Kate Bishop. The series will see Quinn Barton taking on a new role as the mentor for Bishop, as her own bow and arrow skills progress. And she will likely take a leadership role fairly quick, especially with Barton potentially losing his hearing as he did from the comics. As it's been the case with many Phase 4 projects, the mystery that lies is how the world will look in post-Avengers Endgame setting, after Thanos' universe-changing actions with the Infinity Gauntlet. For Hawkeye specifically, this new report is teasing some of what the new world will be experiencing from the screen. The post-Endgame outlook for Hawkeye. So here we go. The Marvel Studios Spoilers Reddit page shared this article snippet from Marvel Studios' Hawkeye series from the upcoming issues of TV Guide. The piece specifically discussed the 5-year time gap after Avengers Infinity War in which half of all life in the universe had disappeared, including Quinn's wife, Laura Barton, and his children. Additional to this, Marvel Studios producer has spoke on the state of New York City, which is doing well though, although some of its people are said to be struggling after the blip in Avengers Endgame. The city has, in many ways, recuperated and continued to thrive, but the same can't be said for all its citizens. New York City is a brave new world. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is no stranger to New York City, as it is America's most prominent metropolis and featured close to dozens of outings and more planned in Phase 4. Naturally, should I say, it would only make sense for Marvel to showcase what the Big Apple has gone through since half its people returned, especially with Hawkeye centered as a character who lost his entire family in this event. When Laura Barton and her kids first turned to dust, Quint lost it emotionally and turned to Ronin persona to try to right the world's wrongs. Similarly all by himself, where the series will rightfully focus on his own recovery after reuniting with his loved ones, New York City is a whole different beast, as the citizens try to pull their lives back together after such an impactful tragedy. Now, as Phase 4 continues, the blip will play a major role for the MCU's lead and supporting characters alike, as they attempt to make sense of their lives in this new world. With Hawkeye focusing on people in New York City, dealing with the aftermath of everybody coming back to life. It will undoubtedly set some emotional moments for fans to experience. Hawkeye is streaming on Disney Plus on November the 24th of 2021, right before Thanksgiving. So you can count on Hawkeye being on your TV by the time Thanksgiving comes around. So that is just some more information. Now, we are just on a roll here, because the Direct actually has some of the best articles, and they're nice and short and to the point. Okay, so Marvel producer is still bothered by Robert Downey Jr.'s line about Johansson's Natasha and Iron Man 2. Now, this is an outdated article from July, but we are still going to read it anyway, because, like I said, when you have two important Avengers that we know is dead in the MCU, we gotta have to talk about him again. So, over the decade after introduction to the MCU, Scarlett Johansson's Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow, was finally getting her time to shine from her movie. But, however, the road to get there wasn't particularly easy. She was originally introduced as the alias known as Natalie Rushman in 2010's Iron Man 2. Natasha had to do a fair bit of climbing to get to her currently coveted status in the MCU as an original Avenger. From pretending to be Tony Stark's assistant to fleeing from the feds after the events of 2016 Civil War, the Black Widow has largely been an under-the-radar role. Nonetheless, though, every project Scarlett Johansson's been featured in, her character has received her fair share in marketing material and promotions. But yet, these materials and promotions have arguably evolved over time, in the years, to focus on how humanized aspects of an actress and character rather than her initial perceived status as an MCU bombshell. Okay, so in fact, the way Natasha was brought in MCU was quite stereotypical, meaning that Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark, immediately looked for photos on a character in lingerie upon laying eyes on her. Okay, but that's like the same thing as like saying like you like to look up Black Widow like for her ass, or like you look up Black Widow for her boobs, or you look up Black Widow for her butt, or you look up Black Widow for her tights, or you look up Black Widow for like sexual types of things. But now, Marvel executive who's overseen the character MCU journey reflected from Black Widow introduction, specifically through the lines spoken from Tony Stark. Black Widow was essentially eye candy for Tony. Victoria Alonso, Executive Vice President of Production at Marvel Studios and co-producer on Iron Man 2 and Black Widow, had told Time magazine that actor Robert Downey Jr.'s line as Tony Stark about Natasha when she was first introduced still bothers me now. In the Iron Man sequel, Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark asked Gwyneth Paltrow Pepper Potts who exactly Natasha is after she takes down Happy Hogan in the ring. Pepper replies with potentially a very expensive sexual harassment lawsuit. Either way, Stark begins searching for these explicit photos of Scarlett Johansson's character, stating, "I want to have one." So, Alonso claimed that the later line never felt right with her and that it bothered her then, as well as she recalling thinking that Natasha is not a thing. But apparently to him, it is a thing. But it bothered me, then it bothers me now. Remember thinking she's not a thing. But how the world sees a sexy woman like Scarlett Johansson or Natasha Romanoff or Black Widow and thinks that because she's beautiful, that's all she has to give. Now, this interesting idea, taking away Natasha Romanoff's sexualized perception. Now this is something you probably never would have thought about, but this is something that's actually out there. This exchange between Tony Stark and Pepper Potts in Iron Man 2 wasn't the only time Natasha Romanoff was outwardly sexualized from films. Later on, Natasha changes into her spy suit in the backseat of a car Happy Hogan's driving after nearly crashing due to trying to sneak peek at her while she's basically down to her underwear. Natasha clearly tells him to watch the road. Moreover from this, the aforementioned marketing from Scarlett Johansson's spy from Iron Man 2 and other MCU films has been said and said again to have focused more on her body assets. Like her boobs, her butt, her ass, everything like that. But when compared to recent marketing materials from 2021's Black Widow, this distinct difference can be noted from the viewer's attention is immediately drawn toward. Now, as you see, there's pictures down below on this article that shows the Iron Man 2 Black Widow and shows the new Black Widow. And of course, the new Black Widow, you don't really get to really see some of that curve in her upper carriage, like her boobs and stuff. But in the earlier versions of Black Widow, you did get to see some of that. But nonetheless, the fact that Victoria Alonso is still bothered by Robert Downey Jr.'s line over the decade later speaks to just how much the character's gone through, not only from the screen, but in public's perception of her. Because you can't help being sexy. You just can't help it. But an important factor about the upcoming Black Widow film, well, it's already out now, so, like I said, this is an old article, but is that Scarlett Johansson herself served as a producer, served as an executive producer, which some of you guys might have known, and some of you might not have, but overseeing how Natasha's story was both visually and on paper. Now, Johansson has claimed time and time again her love for her character. She herself was also spoken on these same frustrations Alonso had from over the years. Either way, progress was being made in addressing these mishaps and moving on to a day and age where actors and actresses, producers and fans alike were fighting for characters to properly depict both on and off screen. And of course, Black Widow is in theaters and is on Premier Access on Disney+. You could also access the Black Widow collection on Disney+. Okay, so that was just a little bit of some stuff kind of clearing up, people, whether they see Black Widow as a sexual character. Okay, so, alright. Now we're going to be talking about Daredevil. Yep, again, another old article. Marvel Studio President addresses Charlie Cox Daredevil rumors. Okay, so the fact that Marvel Studios is about to make the major comeback in the entertainment industry after being forced to delay their entire slate from 2020 to 2021 alone will bring 6 Disney Plus shows and 4 movies introducing dozens of heroes to the franchise. It will be the same situation for 2022, 2023, and beyond. But one exciting thing about the MCU future is that the team will finally get to use heroes formerly owned from Fox. Most notably the X-Men and Fantastic Four. But even considering the overwhelming amount of new material Marvel Studios will use, the studio still has the black sheep situation with the Netflix-based Defenders heroes. Now this was something about Marvel's top man addressed in the recent interviews, sort of. But news. During the recent WandaVision press junket event, Collider, which is another site we use, for you subscribers who remember, I do use Collider sometimes, Marvel CCO Kevin Feige has tackled the question of if the Defenders and individual Marvel Netflix shows were canon, or if they existed in another alternate universe. Though it's something we looked at time and time before, after the interview had mentioned, fans had loved Daredevil, especially the actor himself, Charlie Cox, in a lead role that would love to see him return to the screen. But Feige just looked at the camera and smiled, not saying a word from the subject. Okay, and then there's this picture of him below from Collider. But what this means, the Netflix shows from Marvel TV has always been the mystery related to the greater parts of the MCU, especially since it's still unclear whether they are canon or connected with the rest of the movies that released along with them. Now, Kevin Feige was never flat out confirmed one way or another if they were part of the story, but there are indications and rumors and theories that these shows that could push the verdict in either direction. This especially was intriguing from recent rumors that Charlie Cox would reprise his role in Daredevil for Marvel and Sony's upcoming Spider-Man 3, which hasn't been officially confirmed yet by either of the studios. Or should this come to fruition, it's still unknown whether it would be new Daredevil or the same one from the Netflix shows. But it's clear to say that these series will not be forgotten, even if the MCU expands more movies and more Disney Plus shows. Because like I said, it's basically kind of figuring out whether they're canon or part of the storyline. But it will likely be some time before any news on Netflix show's connection with greater MCU becomes official from some sort or another. But it will be something that fandom keeps eyes on. Because like I said, when you're a Marvel fan, you have to remember to look out for things like that. Because it's very important to. Otherwise, you wouldn't be a fan if you weren't actually, quote-unquote, looking at the information that is hot within the universe in entertainment industries, such as Marvel Studios. Anyway, so we are going about 33 minutes in this video, so I just want to wrap this up and just say, I hope you guys enjoyed this content. I know I did. And so, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And with these new videos I'm doing, I'm probably going to be doing longer videos. With these new videos I'm doing longer videos with more content. So, expect to see some more coming in the future. Because I know you guys would love for me to talk about comic books. So see you in the next one. Bye.